Hello, I'm Tayshan Hayden-Smith, community activist, mischief maker and nature advocate.
I'm Tom Massey, I'm a landscape designer, author and sometimes TV presenter. And this is Tea in the Garden, the show where we share a cuppa and spill the tea with a guest in their garden or green space.
Today we're here in the Cotswolds and we're about to head in the garden of a world-renowned DJ and drum and bass producer, Wilkinson. He's one of the biggest artists in dance right now and he's worked with the likes of Calvin Harris, Becky Hill, The Prodigy and many more.
This episode of Tea in the Garden is sponsored by Chase Gin and Vodka. Chase is all about reconnecting with nature and bringing a little slice of the countryside to wherever you are, even in the heart of the city. Chase's flavours are inspired by the wild. More on that later. You can find more details, including some brilliant cocktail recipes at the link in the episode description.
As a city boy, I'm not used to being in the countryside, so I can't wait to see what the garden's looking like.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? All the birds, the bird sounds, the songs, the green space all around, the views, the Cotswold landscape. Let's go and find out. I mean, this is a pretty amazing space. We're sitting under this incredible oak tree. Do you sit out here often?
You know what, I don't actually sit under here, but it's definitely like a focal point of the garden. And I mean, the view's crazy, and like I was saying earlier, it's like surreal to sort of think that, you know, this is kind of my land space. And the space that I can chill out and unwind on. It's pretty crazy, and you know, you've got like a beech tree over there. It's massive. In the winter, you can see a lot more of them, obviously, because there's no leaves. But yeah, it's just crazy to think this has been here for a long
hundreds
time.
of years.
Yeah, it seemed like, you know, probably before the house was built, and you know.
One thing we always like to talk about in this podcast, Tea in the Garden, is what are we drinking? So
well, this is coffee, funny enough.
Yeah. You've convinced him.
Yours is tea, though.
Tainted me, yeah. Tayshan's actually on the tea. But this,
yeah.
you said this
Maligned.
is locally roasted coffee?
Yeah, just up the road, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
it is very,
yeah, it's nice, tasty.
very tasty.
But
Takes a little bit
did
longer.
you make the tea in your garden, or?
I need to. I should. I have no idea how, but I assume you just grow the plant and then dry it out, right?
Yeah, I think it's as easy as that. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
It's the same. Is it camellia family?
It's camellia. Yeah,
Yeah,
tea
yeah.
is camellia. Yeah. So you could do something like that.
Or I could just buy it from up the road.
Yeah. Put it up the road and tell me it's from your garden.
Yeah. I could tell you. Yeah. So this is good, you know.
Yeah.
Also, teas, you know, they're a gateway to hobnobs for me. So
Ease off on the tea. I mean, this is an amazing garden.
Yeah.
Just sitting here, it's such a change from London. We both come from London today.
Well, we moved to the country last year, and had no garden, so it's quite. Yeah, it's different. You know, I kind of always wanted a garden. I think it kind of, when you don't have one, you really notice your like mental health and sort of unwinding's a lot more difficult. You're constantly looking at your screens and stuff like that. So being out here is just like, yeah, everything I dreamt of, but also a lot of chores.
Yeah, I was going to say from 0 to 25 acres is
yeah. I literally
step up.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I literally do not. I don't even think I watch TV anymore. I'm just like, right, I've got to start watering. It takes about 3 hours, you know, and yeah, that and doing trying to work as well.
But even the soundscape to me is just such a change. Like I'm conditioned to expect to hear like traffic or like police sirens or just noisy people like around. And here
it's really peaceful here. You know, it's like, yeah, it's just all you hear is the birds, and you know, they say that when the birds are tweeting, it means that everything's safe, right?
Really?
Apparently so. That's what I was hearing.
Yeah, I like that.
So that naturally influences your chilled out mentality down here.
I suppose that makes sense, doesn't it? Because if the birds are tweeting, you know, they're scared off by like bangs or
exactly.
Or
Apparently, if they're not tweeting, that means there's danger about.
Really? So if they go silent, we got to run.
Yeah, that's.
That's why there's
not
never
much
birds tweeting in Labatt Grove.
Yeah. I mean, that is, it's mad. I mean, just when you come down here as well, it's just like you can feel yourself like calming down and stuff like that, which I love. And I didn't find. I thought I'd find it very different, like living here than London. I mean, I do, like in terms of how much more relaxed I feel, but in terms of like everything else, like will I miss, you know, having something right on the doorstep, like being able to go to Tesco, like. Or
is there nothing that you miss at all?
I don't actually. You know, I think like whenever I go to London, it's like I'm on a little bit, like, you know, I'll go there, stay
City
somewhere.
break,
Yeah. It's like, yeah, a little city break. And when I'm here, I'm like constantly on holiday as well, it feels like. So, no, I love it. It's great. And just to have an outside space is amazing.
I mean, you can hear the sheep in the background. Have you got sheep, or are they?
So, yeah, the local farmer uses the fields to graze. They're basically lawnmowers.
Mopping up.
Yeah, you know, honestly, like, you know, because it takes so long to cut the grass. So the sheep up there, and it's nice as well. It's like a sense of community, and you know, it's only a small village, so it's nice to be able to like get involved a little bit as well, but not have the responsibility of cutting their nails and trying to wrestle with them to shear them and stuff like that. But it's good to learn. You know, I learn like so much out here. You know, just different things like how do you get water to a place, or you know, there's so many times since I've been here in the last year where I've like had a problem, and you know, you've got to come up with a solution. You know, you plant something, like I planted an entire bank along there and it just got eaten by slugs, and now I'm on a slug mission.
Yeah, slug.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a wet spring, hasn't it? So there's just slugs everywhere.
But in London, like, you're always looking forwards, right? You're always like looking ahead, and you've got technology, and I guess like there's something quite comforting and something that's been going on like for decades and centuries probably, you know, like having the sheep graze the land, and you know, it's something quite, I don't know, I don't know,
Pastoral.
ancient, or
Yeah,
Yeah, it feels quite timeless as
yeah.
well. Like when you look around, there's not really any technology.
No.
You can see in all the buildings are hundreds of years old, so there's definitely a sense of that, and the dry stone wall as well, which you know is always falls over. So
I mean, this must be hundreds of years old. Like just having
it's
that
crazy.
right
You know?
outside your house. I suppose you own that tree. That's quite.
Yeah, I
interesting
mean
concept.
that's another thing. Like when I bought this place, I was like, I don't really feel like I own any of it. You just feel like you're kind of just got to kind of look after it, you know. And it's just because it's going to be here
Beyond
far
you.
longer than I'm going to be here, you know. And it's an amazing thing, you know. You're kind of like a trustee of the land, which is kind of exactly, which is what people say that you should be. So no, I love it though. And
if only there were more stewards of lands. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
I guess that's a big part of the conversation, is like how we look after wildlife and nature, how we complement it and coexist.
I think one thing we should probably mention is that me and you have actually known each other for quite a while.
Yeah. I wasn't sure how this came about, because I was like, oh, you know, but I mean, my brother and you have been friends for a while, and you actually gave me my first gig.
I know,
ever.
that's my claim to fame.
Yeah.
So no one believes me when I meet. They're like, yeah, Wilkinson. Because I don't think many people know I used to do events.
No, you're a man of many talents, many
Jack of all
business.
trade, master of none. That's the but no.
Those were really good events, though.
They were
really
fun,
good.
weren't
They were like indoor festivals. So like, you know, you'd kind of like be in the rave, and then you'd come outside, and there'd be like a tea station. I remember that specifically. You know, funnily enough, that's been a running theme through your life now.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. It was like a really good atmosphere. I guess that was in your university days.
That was in my I must have been about 21. You must have been what, like 18?
Yeah,
19,
18 exactly. Yeah.
I think you even camped in our garden.
I did.
In our uni house.
Yeah.
So,
Didn't even let me stay in the house.
I paid you about 100 quid as well.
Yeah.
Just covered your travel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can sleep. You can sleep in the garden. Fine. I'll take it. It's a gig. I'll take it.
Yeah. No, it was good fun, and it was. I mean, that was the start of. So that was the very start of your career, wasn't it?
That was. Yeah. I mean, I hadn't even. You know, it was still a blag that I got the gig. You know, like I hadn't released anything. I think I did release something that did terribly on a random record label. But you know, I was still at that point at the cusp of sort of when you're a kid doing something that you love, to like sending it out to different record labels, and just really working hard, and like just trying to get a break, you know. But that was that moment, and it's nice though that you're part of that.
We get come back full circle. So, but that leads us on nicely. The first thing we want to ask about is your roots. So tell us about your roots. Where did you grow up? How did you get into gardening? What brought you to this point now here in the Cotswolds in this house?
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up near you in southwest London, St Margaret's, and I guess gardening's always been in my family. My dad used to run like Battersea Park, Wandsworth, all the green areas around there, so he was in the council doing that for most of his life. So And then when he finished there, he just got straight back into being a gardener. He studied at Kew as well, so he's always been like getting us to water the plants and stuff.
Did you used to do it like reluctantly? Like was it something that you really like embraced, or was it something that you were like, like?
You know what? I think like sometimes he'd be like, "We're going on holiday. Can you water the plants?" And me and my brother would you'd go out there like 5 minutes, just, and then he'd come back and be like, be more in the plants. And but you kind of, I guess, that respect for nature and seeing how when you're a kid, you like kind of being there and seeing like what happens when you actually water a plant and seeing it grow. And now my dad's got my nephew out there watering all the time, and it's amazing to see. And also like I was sort of into it there, had a respect for it, and then when I finished college I started helping my dad out when he was going and doing gardening jobs, raking leaves basically and doing stuff like that. So it's always, but that was actually always my job while doing music, was doing some sort of gardening thing. I worked for Petersham Nurseries for a little bit in Richmond, and I was making tunes when I got home and then just like working in the day, and that was basically it until I could finally sort of...
Until I gave you that break.
Yeah, exactly.
But surely you got to recreate that moment at some point. At some point soon.
Yeah. Well, I'll DJ for you.
Tent in the garden.
Yeah. All right, I'll come and camp here.
That'd be one.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it's just one of those things, isn't it? You kind of, you work and do what you love, and then you get those breaks. You know, like as long as you keep working at something, I think you can eventually get a break, and it helps if you love what you're doing as well.
Yeah, so. I think that's a really good point. And I suppose do you find that having that connection to nature helps you do what you do? Yeah,
I think now, like in the last year, it's been an interesting year because we moved into this place at the beginning of last year, and then it took a lot of time and energy sort of sorting out the house, making it livable, and also like realising what a challenge it is looking after 25 acres of land. Yeah. So fortunately now I've got a few people that help me, and finding them alone is really difficult. You move to a new place, you don't know anyone, and so but it's really what it's done is like, even though it takes a lot of effort, you have to sort of basically leave the computer on inside, start making some music. Then when I get a bit bored of what I'm doing there, or if I get a bit of writer's block, I'll just come outside, do a job, and it will like kind of, if it's watering, I'll spot something and it leads me on a path of like, I'll lose a couple of hours, and then I go back in and I'm kind of refreshed with a new kind of headspace to approach the music. So that's really helped. But yeah, last year obviously just having to do so much, it kind of took me away from music a little bit, but now I'm kind of back into it, and it's really enjoyable.
It's funny how we're always taught how like distractions and procrastination is like a bad thing, but actually I've kind of embraced it as part of the process of like creation. I think
that's a really important thing, it's like what is procrastination? You know what I mean? It depends if you're like looking at your phone or just doing like watching like fail videos and stuff like that on reels, and maybe that's not the best thing, but I think that if you can be sort of like doing productive things that are, I think it's important to like break your day up. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's so important. I think that, and also just getting away from that screen time as well, because we're so all of us are just so glued to our phones, glued to TV, glued to kind of connection with a world that isn't real, and actually connecting with the real world, as in the garden or spending time outside. I'm the same as you. Like I get, because I'm at a desk on a laptop most of the day, and you just find you get to a point where you're kind of, the creativity starts to fade, and you're just getting kind of, I don't know, fatigued from looking at screens. But going outside, spending time in the garden, like physically doing something, I think is so important.
And if you have the excuse to do that, I mean, like I'm blessed to be able to be in the countryside and have that. But where I was before, even where my studio was, if I was to like leave the studio and get a breath of fresh air, it's still like concrete everywhere.
Pollution.
Yeah, exactly. and it just would be the same thing. I'd go and get like a coffee shop or whatever, and there wasn't enough. And I guess like, especially in lockdown, I think I felt quite a lot of depression and sort of Not so. I mean, I would focus on the music quite a lot, but it was just like there was just something that just wasn't fulfilling me, and you know, now it feels so much better, you know, and it just feels like I don't need to feel like I'm going to work to go to the studio now. Now it just feels like it's just a little creative space that I can sort of open up, come back and forth, and I get a lot more done. Amazingly.
I think that is something that, particularly in the music industry and in many industries, you know, the grind of, you know, of the job and the pressure to produce and create. I guess that's tough, isn't it? I mean, how is it being a DJ, like traveling around loads? You know, is it fun? Is it tough?
Yeah. I mean, at times it is tough. I think I honestly, in the last sort of, I think when COVID happened and lockdown, I think the entire music industry suffered, you know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were needing that kind of break.
Reset.
You know, if I'm honest, like I think myself included, but it was also an ability to kind of see how good it was, you know, and also like kind of what you miss about it. And so now, you know, the way I approach touring now is a lot more like enjoyable. You know, I'll go out and I'll, you know, wherever we go, we'll try and do something at the place. So instead of like getting the last flight out and then getting to there, doing the gig, and then flying back the next day, try and make a most of it, but also just be. I think it's sort of brought a new light to touring and stuff like that. But I think there is now like a pressure, even more so, to just constantly be on it.
Yeah.
You know, everything's definitely speeding up in terms of people's attention spans. You know, even music, it's like becoming shorter. When I go and DJ, I have to mix faster. You know, it's
Tayshan
just.
can tell you about attention span.
Yeah. We've got absolutely no attention span.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
It's modern life, isn't it?
It is modern life, yeah. And
Like,
I think that's
I do
why
see
it's
that as
really.
a product of my the time I'm growing up.
Yeah.
Like I was born in '96, and that's when everything was computerized and technology was just like at a certain point where there's just an expectation for everything to happen very quickly. No matter how much I try to reverse out of that, I find it really difficult. It's
And how do you find it when you're gardening and out in nature? And how do you feel like that's slowly?
Because the natural world is forever changing, and that's what I love about it. Is that when I'm in a garden, what it looked like 1 second ago is completely different. There's you know, there's so many distractions. There must be a better word for distractions, but there's so many distractions that I'm kind of happy.
Your brain is
I'm like
satisfied.
I'm like,
well, everything changes. You blink, you know. If I like when I go away, I'm like, right, I'll mow the lawn on a Friday, and then I come back on a Sunday. I'm like,
it's like up.
It's just like
get the sheep.
Yeah, you don't even get to enjoy it. It's like constant, but you know, I think that's like an amazing thing, is seeing how quickly nature like changes as well. You know, but yeah, it's amazing.
But I suppose another thing that you've done a lot of is travel. With work. New Zealand, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's like, you know, especially New Zealand. I think that, you know, out there, my music's really popular and
bigger than over here. Are you bigger there than or similar?
I think, I don't know, maybe bigger over there. You know, I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but you know, the radio stations really support me over there. I've had a really good following for a while out there, and I've built it over sort of the last sort of 8 years, and now I'm doing like arenas out there, and
really,
yeah, it's crazy. Like we do did like 25,000 tickets like a couple of years ago. In COVID, it was just crazy because that was the only place that was open in the world.
Really?
So we had to get like a special visa, and like, you know, bear in mind, no one could go clubbing here, right? Yeah. No one could even leave really, and I mean, I don't know if I should be bragging about it, but yeah, then we got on a plane, and like, you know, I remember being on the plane and there was like 10 people on the plane, and you fly to Singapore and they put you in this little like, you know, these little pens, and you kind of just like wait, and then you're like, then you fly to New Zealand, and then we landed, and then we were put in like this little, like literally people in like hazmat suits came onto the plane, got us, and then you get taken to like a hotel that's like a COVID centre, and
quarantine
for 2 weeks in a hotel room, and you know, that was really hard because I was like
on your own in isolation.
On my own, isolated, you know, nothing else in the world's going, just like in this hotel room like for 2 weeks, just like it was pretty mad. I did that twice, but then when you're out, it was just free. And
so after the 2 weeks, you're allowed out.
After the 2 weeks, you're all good, yeah. And then you just go and like live life like it was really normal. Quite strange, yeah. And that was amazing, you know. But definitely New Zealand's like the way I'd say it's so natural out there. Everything is just like they really look after it as well. And I feel like it's one of the last places that has preserved so much of, you know, the natural nature. Habitat and the vineyards out there, and just everything's just so beautiful. So I think that definitely influenced me wanting to move out to here, and even like when we came and let to the house, I just sort of like saw the view and I was like, yeah, that's you know, it being in a valley, and it's really the location is everything, you know. I think.
Because you've got ambitions here to maybe have a vineyard, lavender farm, or you know, you got ideas of ways in which you can manage the land, but I think sustainability is important to you.
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's like it's interesting also from the perspective of like if you try and do too much, you've got to look after it. So there's only so much. There's only so many chores that I'm willing to do, but like it's like, you know, nature, like, you know, is its own thing. You can't really tell it what to do. So I think it's important just to like. I've learned that I need to see a season here, maybe even 2. And just get to know it a little bit, you know, and see what sort of grows up and what doesn't. And but yeah, doing a vineyard I'd love to do, just because I like wine. Firstly,
what's your wine of choice? Are you white, red?
I'm just like anything. I mean, like there's so many different grape varieties as well, and you know, like even just looking at doing the vineyard here, there's like a grape called Bacchus which grows well in this region, and I'd never heard of it. And I was like, I don't know if I like it, but it's an amazing grape, similar to Sauvignon Blanc. And
just remember, there's a club called Bacchus in Kingston.
There is,
a grimy little sweaty club.
I actually got barred from there.
Really?
Yeah. And I went back like, you know, probably like 7 years ago or something.
Yeah.
I don't know why I went back there. I think it was partly for a joke, just to go for a drink.
To see if they let you in.
I was still barred.
Really? Well, they got
like, yeah, they got like a little
face ID.
Yeah, an ID thing, which is quite funny. That was a good little.
Tom's barred for most of them.
I'm barred from Kingston.
Kingston altogether.
So I think I remember you were quite a keen BMXer at one point, is that right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, since I was, again, like, well, much younger than when I started music, but yeah, that was travelling around, there was a place called Teddington Lock, again, which is out in nature. Yeah, you just build jumps and ride your bike and meet new people. I've got a few friends that I'm still, you know, friends with from that scene, like since I was like 14, which is quite cool. So yeah, love it.
No BMX track here?
Not yet, no. Yeah, but I mean the thing is now it's like quite funny, because it's like I could just get a digger in and, you know, just like make some big jumps.
You can do a crazy,
like
super
the flips and the.
But I'm also like still trying to make it look nice as well, so I'd make them really aesthetically pleasing.
You have like a lavender field, like lavender road going up the hill.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool. I mean,
your niche, like lavender and BMX combined.
Yeah.
The tour of the estate
Definitely.
is on BMX.
Yeah.
Led by you, too.
Led by me. Yeah. That's quite a niche.
Niche thing. I think you do well.
There'll probably be like 3 people who are into it.
Or me, you, and Tayshan.
Yeah. No, I love it. I need to do it more. I keep buying bikes and not riding them. So I've got like a mountain bike now, and I've got to have suspension. Because, you know, as you get older, your bones start.
That's why I looked at Tom.
But you know, in Ladbroke Grove, it was like PlayStation skate park. That was somewhere I always used to go.
That was a spot.
What was it?
Bay 66.
Yeah. But I used to try and get up, and like you could touch the underside of the.
You always grew up playing football, didn't you?
Under the Westway as well. So.
Yeah. They've got all the
football pitches.
Five-side pitches.
Yeah. It's funny because that whole under the Westway obviously is where I was born and raised, and like there's so many different things there. Like,
I think it's great, and like there's Westbourne Park, the bowls there, Meanwhile Bowls,
Meanwhile Gardens,
Meanwhile Gardens, and the thing is that it is all like kind of those areas and those skate parks. They're always usually in a park, which I find is like one of those things where it's like. It's good for kids to just go to those places, and then before they know it, they're actually like, oh, I appreciate just like sitting out on the grass and in the sun. And
think that's
You
a really
know,
good
like-
point. It's sport or activities are often a gateway to access to nature, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, BMXing or even golf or football or whatever. You know, that is a way of getting kids active and outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, most people, I think, like, you know, just love nature, whether they know it or not. You know, festivals. You know, part of that whole thing is like you're outside in nature. My favourite festivals are like in parklands and, you know, rather than sometimes you get these kind of concrete festivals, and they're just not. They're not a vibe. They're like, they just don't feel like a festival, you know. And I think that's like, there's just something running through all of this music and sports and everything, is like people being out in nature. I think it's like super important.
It's come full circle for me, because the very spaces that you're talking about, so Meanwhile Gardens, I used to get up to so much mischief there, like at a skate park there, and there's a lot of green space there. So I used to hang out there, and like I've then come to learn quite recently that, well, a lot of the work that I do is about like nature access. And in the 60s, 70s, the same with the Westway and Basic 66 and Meanwhile Gardens, these were spaces reclaimed by community, and it's us who've then benefited from that. And it's like the importance of space to people and how that's perceived and how that's used.
Yeah.
It's just, and skateboarding, BMXing, you know, football, music, these are all expressive outlets, you know, ways that we can connect.
And yeah, like you said, like when we, you know, there's various places where we used to go, skate parks and stuff like that, and they, like, you get kids there who are just there to cause trouble as well. But eventually, you could, But like, you know, we'd be like, you know, someone would be like, "Can I have a go on your bike?" And be like, "You're just gonna cycle off." But occasionally, if you like read it, like if you're genuinely gonna like actually do something, like go over that jump, because you occasionally get a kid who's like a daredevil. So yeah, when I was a teenager, we used to go to this place called Teddington Lock, and which was kind of it was by the river in Teddington. It's a beautiful location.
Yeah, I know it is.
And it kind of it feeds. You've got the Ham Estate as well, and
it's near Richmond Park.
Near Richmond Park, yeah.
Very green, like river running past. Bridges
Exactly.
Over
Yeah.
Yeah, really beautiful.
And it was one of those things where the council kind of, they knew what we were doing there, and they allowed it, so they wouldn't like, you know, they did knock down the jumps occasionally when they got too big for health and safety reasons, which was annoying because they didn't sort of have like a set.
Yeah, well, just
height. They'd just turn up with a bulldozer, and you'd be like,
it's hours of work.
Yeah, but like they kind of worked with us on it a little bit, and it was good to have that input. But I think the main thing is that, you know, the amount of people that met, and like there was a real community down there, and kids from the estate would come down, and they'd initially like would, you know, be there to kind of, I guess, like sometimes cause trouble, but then eventually they'd sort of like get on a bike, get involved in it, and start doing some jumps and see how fun it was.
I think it's something that you do a lot as well in your work, is that giving communities a sense of ownership over a space. And if you just let people take charge and take control, you get a much better result.
I guess it's like understanding what safe space means to people. It's like you went to this space because it felt safe to you, because it was familiar. You know, like you love BMXing, and you were with your BMX friends, and like even the people that weren't BMXing, like you said, they became comfortable with that idea. And it's just like, without that space, then you can't. Yeah, there's no element of play. Yeah, I think play is something that we lose as we get a bit older. And
yeah, I think it's hard in London as well, isn't it? Because there's such a high value on all of the spaces. You know, like if there is an area of parkland, someone's going to want to build something on it, and that's something that I find as well in the sort of UK club scene as well. You know, it's like the value of that club to just like be knocked down and put flats in there or something like that is a lot of the time it's overlooked, you know, and those are the kind of places where all that creativity and culture is sort of created. You know, Fabric, for example, which was for me like, it was like going to school. You know, you'd like start off in room 3, you know, obviously start off in Bournemouth, the old fire station, but then, you know, then when I got the, you know, it's Fabric was always that place, and then it got shut down, and then there was all this kind of talk of it being built into flats and things like that, and luckily, you know, everybody from all the DJs and like the community of sort of ravers and everyone just sort of came together and had such a voice that they kind of put a stop to it, which is great, you know. And now it's functioning back as a nightclub, and there's a real danger of like losing a lot of those cultural hubs for music, and you know, and the same thing with skate parks. You know, fortunately we're having a lot of skate parks built, but they're also like taking a lot out. You know, so it's just it's important to make sure that those places are kept safe from, you know, being taken away, and you know, because they are like really good locations for people just to hang out and make friends, because there's not much to do. Do you know what I mean? You know, like other than sort of go out and get out of your house.
Yeah, it's like the reason why there's character. It's like when I see like Ladbroke Grove, like West London, you know, it's full of character, and intrigue and interest, and it's like the very reason why people want to go there and live there is because of that. Is like the culture, the colour, the character of the community. But it's like, it's funny because then people then have their own ideas of how to like change that going forwards. It's like a skate park might have like brought together a community of people from all different walks of life, and that was like you said, a cultural hub. But it's like some people might want to build flats on it, and that's going to just take the heart and soul of that community out of it.
I think that's why I wanted to come out here, is just to be in the nature, you know, and just like feel very lucky just to sort of be able to walk outside and just it will be green, and I can kind of do what I want.
This episode of Tea in the Garden is brought to you by Chase Gin and Vodka.
Just like us, Chase is inspired by the wild. We've just been talking about moving to and living in the countryside, and Chase is all about bringing a slice of the countryside to wherever you are.
So we wanted to share a recipe with you for a rhubarb sour. I'm going to show you how. Taysh, take a seat. Start with ice in a shaker, then add 50 ml Chase rhubarb flavoured vodka, 20 ml of fresh lemon juice, 20 ml of sugar syrup, 1 egg white or a vegan alternative. Once you've shaken that together, get rid of the ice and shake again. Now strain it into a glass with some fresh ice, add a slice of rhubarb to serve.
Would you make any direct links between like you living in London and the way that your music is compared to living here, and how your creative process?
Yeah, I mean yeah, I mean, I think it's like a bit of a juxtaposition to be like a drum and bass junglist, like, and then like come out here and it's like sometimes I'm like
classical music.
It's having scones and tea.
It feels. But I guess that's, you know, occasionally I make other music. Like I made like another track yesterday that wasn't drum and bass, and I was like, nah, just, you know, I just wasted like 4 hours. Well, I haven't really, but like.
Yeah. What genre was it?
It was house, but not that I've got anything wrong with house. Sometimes like if I love something, I want to make it, right? And actually sometimes it's best just to enjoy it and just stick to, you know what, because like when I make drum and bass, I love that energy, you know. I've always been, I guess from being you know, into like adrenaline sports like BMXing, mountain biking, skateboarding first off. I need that energy, you know, and when I'm making drum and bass, there's like, it's quite intense, you know, and that's where I think this place comes into it, because it definitely like winds me down, like when you're just like going from making drum and bass like loud and then being like watering a plant. Do you know what I mean? Outside, it's you know.
Nice. I guess you could imagine like making hectic drum and bass, walking out into like sirens in London and You don't have that. I think what's really important in life and in you know in your career is to have that ebb and that flow and that balance, that time for the energy where you need the energy, but then also to have the ability to have downtime where you burn out.
Yeah, exactly. Really, I mean, living in London, growing up, having the access to the nightclubs, especially when I was growing up, you know, like Herbal Heaven, all these like, you know, East London nightclubs, Cable, where I used to go, and drum and bass back then, as a genre that I make, was small, and it was like there was a community vibe to it, and I think that's what's like always loved about the scene and the drum and bass scene, is that it was quite small. You know, there's a couple of record labels, Hospital Records, Ram Records, and you could go to those nightclubs, stand in front of the DJ that you've been listening to. Like I loved the music, so I'd like, you know, be downloading the tunes, and I'd be buying like DJ Mag and Mix Mag, and I'd be like reading about these DJs and just be like, wow, these people are amazing. Like, sure, like how some people like Taylor Swift, and you know, like mine would be like Andy C. Do you know what I mean? But to be like then like there watching that DJ play, and it was like I loved the fact that the turntables, the Technics on vinyl, and you know, I used to go to the record store and buy vinyl, and that whole thing for me. Obviously, I didn't grow up here, so I don't know what it'd be like. But you'd have to go to Bristol, or you know, I was just like in London. Kingston was my local record store, you know, Banquet Records, and it was just, I could just go and get involved. Friday, go out, you know, Saturday, go out, and just be there for the music, and just in those places where everyone was like kind of enjoying themselves, and it was like really relaxed.
It's the scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the people, and like everyone likes this kind of music that's not necessarily that popular. And
it feels like, because I, very similar to you, was really into, I suppose, when garage transitioned into dubstep, and there was that time where it was like not very many people were into it, but the people that were so hardcore about it.
Yeah.
And you'd go and you'd like stand at the front, like you say, like right by the speaker, then you'd chat to the DJs after, and it felt like a little community. But how does it feel now, being on the other side of that? So you are the person that the kids are coming to watch, and you know, you've got. How does that feel, like flipping it around?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it happened gradually, but it's sort of like, it's interesting right now. Drum and bass is having a huge moment. I mean, I've never experienced its popularity in America. You know, I've been doing this since probably touring. I think I did my first show in America in like 2012, and to see it now, the speed in which, like, you know, I used to go out there and perform at like bars and stuff like that for like 50 people, you know, and just like, you'd kind of be like, this is great touring America, but like, it's not really doing anything. It's a long way to go. You'd have to spend weeks out there away from your friends and family, and just like be doing these small sort of shows on the weekend, doing nothing in the week, you know. So now, you know, it's like there's like playing like 20,000 people, you know, at a festival, and like, you know, and people are like reaching out to me, like, I'm like, really? That person wants me to do something with them?
Who's
like,
the best person that's reached out to you, then, if you can say?
I don't know. I mean, there's all, like, you know, there's people like kind of like John Summits and like Dom Dollars and you know, Tiesto, and all these people that are now making or working with drum and bass artists. You know, it's like mad. Like
bringing it into the mainstream, I guess. You've been there from the
and
beginning.
just to suddenly see, like, you know, see these huge artists like playing drum and bass, not even playing it, but like making it, and you're like, wow, like, that's amazing, and everyone's understanding it and seeing them dance. You know, like it used to be, it wasn't, not to like make fun of people, but like, used to go there and be like, they just don't know how to dance to drum and bass.
Awkward.
Yeah. It was a dubstep, like head banging kind of on the front rail, but you know, you do that to drum and bass, it looks like you've got a problem. You know what I mean? So it's like, now it's like, oh, they're moving their feet, and like, you know, even like from the boxing, you know, Tyson Fury coming out to Badadan, and Usyk coming out to Subfocus and Culture Shock, Bespoke tune, and him saying that his footwork, you know, was benefited from like the step into drum and bass. It's, you know, it's like this is having a huge moment. So at the moment it's amazing, and like I'm really enjoying performing, and you know, the sort of crowds are getting bigger, but at the same time there was for so many years where I was sort of like, just felt like I was kind of like flying the flag a little bit, going and because I had like Afterglow, which was a kind of quite a big commercial hit, you know, for me. And I kind of like would go and do gigs with house DJs and like not really drum and bass audiences, and have to kind of try and like push it, like see how much drum and bass I could play, try and get them, you know, going and stuff like that. So it was like hard work for a little bit, but now it's like, you know, just amazing. Everyone understands it, everyone gets it, and yeah, it's really enjoyable.
So I guess as the genre's grown, like you have with it too, and
Yeah.
like I feel like coming here, obviously, this feels like a very distant place to what I would think of like drum and bass, or
Yeah.
you know. And so how has kind of that journey, how's it taken you to here?
I think like, you know, it's sort of a blur because like you do the sort of like the festivals every year. Like this year will probably be my 9th or 10th year at Glastonbury, for example. And each year you get growth and you kind of experience that, but you also like forget a little bit like what the shows 3 or 4 years ago were like. Obviously COVID happened, that was like a big sort of blur again. But I think just like coming here, being able to buy a property like this, and it was like a really big moment for me,
It's a
like
milestone,
to
right?
be like,
It's like-
yeah, to feel like I've like really looked after myself. I always feel like I trust my previous self to look after myself, and like so I come here and I think, wow, like 2 years ago, like or whatever, like getting a mortgage and like or like just grinding away, making sure that I'd like saved enough money, or and you know like I'm like thankful for myself for making the decisions in the past that have led me to not only this but like to where I am in my career as well. You know, I feel like, you know, I'm in my 30s now, and I feel like that kind of having that, knowing that I did that in my 20s, it makes me feel quite relaxed and chilled. I mean, I trust myself more, that I've kind of always got my back because I'm always thinking about the future.
Would 18-year-old you have known that you were going to do like 10 Glastonburys? And
I actually try and think of like, I try and think of it sometimes, like what was I thinking? And I feel like sometimes in your career you reach, like I had this thing where I always wanted to like perform at Brixton Academy on my own night, and I got to that place, and it was quite strange once I got there because you don't really know what to do after that. I was like, I always thought, oh, if I sold that out, amazing.
Yeah.
But your perspective changes.
Yeah, it's when you reach your goals.
Yeah.
Like one of mine was to get a gold medal at Chelsea, and
Yeah.
when you do it, you're suddenly like, oh, I've done that, and it's
Yeah.
great in the moment. But then it's kind of
You do feel like a strange, plateau-y kind of.
I think it's if you're a workaholic. I think
Yeah,
you're probably a work. We're all probably workaholics.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's that kind of constantly striving for something but never quite being satisfied.
No, and the thing is that there was a good quote, and it's like you should basically die trying to achieve your goals, because
I think that's a nice thing.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's quite a nice thing.
because then because it's always nice having something to work towards, as long as there's balance and you're not like, I need this now, and you understand that there's a journey there.
Yeah,
and maybe that goal is not like a certain amount of money, or you know, it's something that is fulfilling, could benefit. You know, like when I have children here, I know that hopefully they'll be making dens and tree houses and getting splinters and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, rather than like, oh,
Xbox,
yeah.
Trying to get you to give them a lift to London.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. I want to go raving. Like, no.
Staying. Growth is an important part of this podcast, and what do you see as the growth for you personally, for your career, for this garden? What's next in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that like I'm trying to establish at the moment. Like I feel like last year was just moving into this place and sort of making it how we want it was like a huge thing, and just getting it was like we've wanted to move to a new house with a garden for a long time. So I'm sort of in this reset phase at the moment, but I think I'm still not sure what my next like sort of target is. I mean, obviously everything's blowing up in America now, so spending more time out there, and when you're like a DJ or I guess any artist, you could like set yourself these, I guess, like with the Chelsea Flower Show, for example, these things like okay, so stages at festivals, things like Glastonbury, like there's a hierarchy of stages, there's a hierarchy of tiers of venues in America, so I think like setting my sights on some of those things, and and sort of working out a journey to get there.
What's top of your list at the moment?
A big London show at some point, which I'm still trying to work out. I'm doing, I've got like some big show. I've done like arenas in New Zealand, so I'm kind of setting my targets quite high out there with what I do next, which is really exciting. So lots of little things, but also just making music and just enjoying it. And I think just like balance is key, for me, is like being able to tour and come back here is amazing, because it's like I can just sort of like decompress. Looking after my health as well is really important, and I do say I'm genuinely, I'm not just saying these things like but like I think that in order to because it is like, when I look back over the last 5-6 years, sometimes I'm like, how have I felt while I'm doing these things? How have I felt while I've been on tour? How have I felt while I've been making music, trying to hit deadlines, trying to push myself? And have I enjoyed it? And I think, like, looking back, sometimes I just think, like, for example, I could be working really hard in the studio, then go to the pub with my mates and just be like, I just don't feel very present, or like I just feel a bit like there's...
On autopilot.
Yeah, or like, like you're like thinking about something
Your mind's
else.
elsewhere.
Yeah, and I just think it's really important to, like, I have moments sometimes when I'm in social situations where I feel really present and I'm a laugh and I'm there, and I have other moments where I just don't feel like I'm there, or I feel a little bit distracted, or there's something else on my mind. So it's setting boundaries, making sure I've got a couple of hours to chill out, turn my phone off, or just not answer any emails or whatever, and just like working on me as a person, I guess. Like,
I think that's so important, and I think probably both of us can relate to that as well. That the importance of being present, and you can be. For me, I always like to just have loads going on all the time. Like I'm always doing like a podcast or a show, or like various projects, and I think in a way sometimes that's to kind of escape from just the mundanity of living and existing. And I think it's really important, and I think that's where gardens and green space and being outdoors gives you that chance to just to reset, to be in your own thoughts and not afraid of that.
No, exactly. And I think it is like one of those things where I could sit here, and think, oh, that's really relaxing and it's like that. But like active minds sometimes need something to do, and if that's like doing a bit of weeding, doing something with your hands, like making your brain focus on things that are there and then, like, putting up a weed, like spending an hour. You know what I mean?
What's on your to-do list at the moment in your garden?
I've got, oh mate, this edging along here is shameful. I'm like, I keep telling Paddy, who does a lot of my gardening, I'm like, I'm going to do that. But I've basically achieved like 4 meters. It's like I've got about 40. So like things like there's little jobs that I like having there, because I know that I can come out and do them, and maybe in the sun, and I used to be in the studio all the time in the shade, just like, and I just feel so much better for being able to come outside and be in an outdoor space. And it's amazing what the sun can do, Saying that in the UK,
when it is out.
We're lucky,
As a sort of summary, we always like to end on a final question. What is it in your life, in your garden, in your career that you really want to nurture?
I'd say presence, as in
not gifts.
Not gifts. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've been telling you that no one came with any gifts. No, it's that presence, and I guess being grounded. Those two things are super. I've learned have been really important. And something that is like requires practice. I don't think you can achieve feeling present without practicing a few things, and that doesn't always look. Some people that's meditation. I think that, for people like what you were saying earlier, where it's like you feel like you're constantly trying to do something. I mean, I think deciding to do things that you have to be present with, like gardening,
Does DJing give you that as well? Like when you're in the flow
Yeah.
of the mix?
Yeah, it does, and I think making music does as well. You get into this, when I'm producing, I sometimes, it's this really strange thing where you could like lose 5 hours, and I don't even remember, and I'm just like 5 hours have gone, I've just been in, I think it's flow.
Yeah, flow state.
It's
like flow state.
And that is, that's something that I definitely find when I'm in the studio and things are going well. And I notice, when I get a phone call or, my managers or they'll call me and like interrupt that flow. No disrespect to them because they have to. No, but it's like setting boundaries of like putting my phone on silent and just allowing that flow to happen because, I wrote Afterglow, produced it after the vocals and stuff, like really quickly. It just happened, and that was just flow. Whereas sometimes I'm making a tune and it can take months, and that's because I haven't got into that flow with it, and
can you hear that in your own work? So you can, when you listen back to stuff, because I see that in projects that we do. Some projects just flow. And you get that kind of real feeling with it, and others it's a bit more of a grind, and it maybe never quite gets to the point where you wanted it to get to for whatever reason.
Yeah, and sometimes those ones are overcomplicated.
Yeah, you put too much into it, and you've overworked it.
Yeah, so like there's sometimes where like I've got a tune that I'm working on at the moment, and it's so complicated, and then when I play it out, I'm like, is this too complicated? They're like, all the rhythms are really crazy, and they're like, they're not moving quite right. It's like, but yeah, I can overcomplicate things, but I think that's nice. It's kind of like when I'm out here and I'm gardening and stuff, like I do have to know, if I don't stop, like I'm just going to create more and more work for myself. Do you know what I mean? Like if I decided to like plant loads of plants that I've got water, it's going to be a nightmare, like, so it's one of those things where for me knowing when to stop and also like catching a vibe, like with music, like sometimes you just get this, it is like you catch a vibe and it happens really quickly and it's got everything it needs, and you almost don't want to like make it all squeaky clean.
You can like overthink things.
Exactly, and character comes from imperfections, and imperfections kind of, if you go in too hard on something, you lose the imperfections, and then it becomes a bit synthetic, and then it loses its kind of vibe. And I think people like dancing to music that's like got that
raw.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think, Mark, it sounds like you got a lot to do in the garden. I think we finished our teas. We should probably make a move. But no, it was
it's been amazing chatting to you.
It's been a real pleasure, and it's so nice to hear about where from that first gig in Bournemouth to playing Glastonbury in a few days. Like that journey is amazing. And it's, and I think all your plans for here, this space. There's actually one other thing you didn't mention. You got a big event happening here, haven't you?
A wedding, yeah. So I've got to. I think that's nice having that target. Got to like get on top of it all.
Get your edging in.
Yeah.
I do think you should, like on a very proper wintry night, you should get a tent out here for Tom.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Just to pay him back for the very kind gesture.
I know. To be fair, that was quite a good night. I'm pretty sure, and probably only stayed in the tent for like 3 hours.
Yeah, I think it was mainly in the club, wasn't it, and in the house.
But amazing, man, amazing to see what you guys are doing, and it's got exciting times ahead.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mark.
We head back to the big smoke, shouldn't we? Just, get in that car, back to hectic. So that was an amazing chat with Wilkinson in this incredible landscape and garden.
Bro, like, we're surrounded by sheep and birds. For me, that's a rarity. So it's been a really beautiful experience, and understanding his journey from inner city London, where he didn't have a garden, to now having 25 acres of space.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was great to reconnect with him, to hear about his incredible career, this space that he's going to nurture and grow in. So we'd like to thank you for joining us for this episode of Tea in the Garden. This episode was made possible by our sponsors at Chase Gin and Vodka and their flavours inspired by the wild. Please always drink responsibly.
And don't forget to subscribe, follow, and check out all the details in the episode's show notes.
We'll see you on the next episode of Tea in the Garden with another amazing guest.